In this lecture, we're going to see another example of how we can use masks to pack information in a really small variable. What we're going to do is pack color information in an int variable, which is going to be 4 bytes in memory, and each byte is going to be used to store a color. Color information can be stored in 1 byte because the information about the color is going to be between 0 and 255. That's how color works for computers. So what we're going to do is use 1 byte and store the color in 4 components. Each color is made up of a red, green, and blue component. So the first byte is going to store the red component. The second byte is going to store the green component. The third component is going to store the blue component. The fourth component is going to store how transparent that color is going to be. And I am really not lying to you. This is how color works in a computer, but I can't go in much more details. We're just going to set up a byte in this lecture, and that byte is going to be storing a regular color that you can use in your computer. But we're not going to go as far as using that color because that's really out of scope for this course. But this is a piece of knowledge you can reuse whenever you get to work with color information later in your career as a C++ developer. So what we're going to do is set up a color, call it my color. We're going to put in the information in hex format. So the first byte is going to be AA, the second one is going to be BC, the third one is going to be DE, and the transparency is going to be 0. So once we have this information, we might want to print it out on the console. And we're going to use the same technique we've learned about in the last 2 chapters by checking the information in a bit or a series of bits. Because if you look here, our masks are targeting multiple bits together. The red mask is going to be FF in the first position here. The second byte is going to be FF in this position. You see that we are targeting 8 bits at once. Okay, once we have this, we can really do the same thing we have used to check if a bit is set or not. And what we're going to do for the first byte or the red byte, we're going to end with the red mask and we're going to shift 24 bits so that the information shows up in the lower section of our integer here. From that point on, we can interpret our data as an integer, and we're going to get a value between 0 and 255. I really hope this makes sense. For the green byte, we're going to shift 16 bits because it is in this position here. So to get it in position 0, we need to shift 16 bits. For the blue mask, we're going to shift 8 bits. For the alpha mask or the transparency mask, we're not going to do any shifting because it's already in this position here. And if we print this out, we're going to get a value for red, green, and blue. Let's head to Visual Studio Code and see this in action. Okay, here we are in Visual Studio Code. We're going to copy our template files. So let's do that. And after that, we're going to paste that in our lecture here, which is packing color information. We're going to open this up in Visual Studio Code pretty quick. And we're going to open our main CPP file. So let's do that. We are going to go down a bit and put in our code. And let's close this pane here so that we see the entire thing really nice. We have a few masks. We have a red mask, a green mask, a blue mask, and an alpha mask, which is going to be really transparency information. And we have our data, which is going to contain our color. And we are using our old technique now to print this color in hex. So we're going to get information for red, green, and blue, and we're going to see what alpha is. We can bring up our terminal here, and we can run the task to build with GCC. We're going to bring this up, and if we run Rooster, we're going to see that red is AA, green is BC, blue is DE, which is really what we have in here, and alpha is 0. We set the output to be hex so that you can really see that this is what we have put in here. But we could also take out the hex and make it dec. And the show base is not going to be effective in decimal, but it is going to print. So we're going to build this. It's going to build fine. If we run Rooster, we're going to see that red is 170, green is 188, and blue is 222, and alpha is 0. we have our color information stored in a byte, and this is really compact and cool. This is really all we set out to do in this lecture. I hope you found it interesting. We are going to stop here in this lecture. In the next one, we're going to try and recap what we saw in this chapter. Go ahead and finish up here and meet me there.